Hi, welcome back to the concluding part of our Python PYQT login and register. In our last lesson, we looked at our login and register, where we design this through our Qt designer. So on our login, we have username and password, while on our login page we have username, password, the login button, and the create account button, which will open the form register, where we can enter our registration information. Then afterwards it takes us to the welcome page. Alright, so now let's look at the code part of it. We have generated the code part of it, and then we have the code right here. We have for the login, and then we have for register. So on our register form, we have a button that connects us into it from the login page, which is where we have the following. On the login page, we have the codes generated by the designer already, which represents each object. We have the one for the username here. We have the username where it creates the object of Qt widget QLine edit as a self.username. It set the geometry, that is the position of that username line edit. Then it set the font, created object of the font, and set the font to be what we said, and the font point, the bold, weight, and then our style sheet where he set it, and then the object name of the username is object name. All this we set on our designer, and it has written the code. The same thing goes for the password. We have the object of QLine edit again for the password called self.password. Then it set the geometric for the password here, that is the position. The button will be the text field, that line edit on the window. Then it set the form and also the font family, the point, the bold, the weight, and then it set pass everything into our password as set font. Okay, then it sets the style sheet, and then because this is a password, it sets the echo mode to be line edit or password. Alright, now that is for password. For our btn login, the same thing happens, but for the register button, is created the object as well, then set the geometric, the style sheet, the object name, and others. But we have written a code that whenever they click on that button, it should open the register page, which is what we have designed here. We have the login page where we have the create account button that will open the register page by default automatically as we open it. Alright, now where is the code? This is it. We call the button self.reg. When it is clicked, then connect to a function which will be called showReg. So now we declare the function here, define function showReg self. Then we created object of main window. Inside what? We created object of qwidgets.main window as main window. Then we have a class of the register that we have imported into this module, which is called UI register from register module, which is our register file. Alright, then we now call that, say self.window. We create an object of window UI register class that we imported right there. We created an object of it to be UI, and then we access the setup UI function inside the class, let's see, inside the function, the reg, this is the register.py, this is the module. So we have a class UI register, and that is what we have created object of it to be UI here. Then we now say UI.setup UI, that is this, like I explained to us last time, that everything that displays on our window, on our application, is instantiated or called inside the setup UI of the object of the class. Then we now show the main window after putting our register inside it, which means whenever they call this to show it, it's going to display our register form to us. So we tried it yesterday by running it on our page right here. If you call the login.py here, this is it. You click on create, then it displays the register form. That is how we did it. Now to now register, if we want to register, that will be done inside here, and we're going to use a database to keep our records. We have done it on the register, that when they click on when they enter text into all those text fields, the line edits, then it should get the text of individual, just like we demonstrated here, that whatever you type inside here, inside the text function here, we get displayed in the, we can search for that same text, and this is it. I typed John here and it show here. If I should change my John to be Johnson, you can see it's showing there. So which means it is the text function that we are going to use to get our items from the form. So we've gotten everything. When they type, we print that, but we are not just going to print it. What we are going to do with all this information is that we are going to store it into a database, and for the purpose of simplicity, we are going to use SQLite 3 database. We can use any database in this regard actually, but because SQLite will create itself on the fly, we don't need to start installing any database setup or anything. Then we are going to make use of SQLite database. It's good for small applications that will not be taking billions of records. You can still store up to 1 million and thereabout, but it cannot go beyond that. Alright, so now let's move on. So SQLite 3 dot connect. Yes, if you are connecting to using any database, you have to connect to that database. So in this case, we are calling the function SQLite3.connect. But before we do that, we need to import it into our project. It already comes with Python. That is why we don't need to do anything except just to import it. So we just import SQLite3, and that's all. Then we come right here and say SQLite3 that we have imported .connect. Which database are we connecting to? So we'll put the database name here. If the database exists, it's going to connect. If it doesn't exist, it will create it and also connect to it. So we can call this one login.db. So now we've created a connection to the database and put everything inside where a variable con. So this will create the database and as well connect into it. If we want to try that, we can try it. Let me save this and run it. We can see this is, we are creating a database login.db. If we open our folder, we don't have anything like login.db. Now let me run our register.py, the register page. Let me see if it has created. Not yet. So that's, we create it. Immediately we click on register button. Let's see now. If I should click on this, then it creates the login button, because it is at the point of clicking on this that we connect into the database. We didn't connect initially when you open the application. Yeah, so that's it. It has created the database. You can always delete and recreate the database as much as we want. Okay, so now after doing this, we have created our database, but we need to create table inside the database so that it won't just be an empty database that we are trying to access. So in this case, I'm going to create a function that will get executed immediately we run our application and create the database. So for us to do this, we need to start with the login, because that's at the starting point of our application. So immediately we open the application, it should do what? Create the database and connect to it. So now I'm going to create a function, and also it will create the table if it doesn't exist. So I'm going to create a function, call it dev create db self. Then what I'm going to do here is I will do the same thing as I have done here. I will connect into the DB so that this will create the database, and then we want to create an SQL that will say, so in Python, if you type quotes in 3 times and close it 3 times, whatever you type in between will be exactly as you are typing it. It won't go. So what do we want to do here? We want to create, let me type that in capital letter, create table users. But before that, create table if not exists users. That is how we want our table to be created. Okay, so we create a user, table users, parentheses. Now we are going to have let me quickly use the ones I've done as example here and quickly do that. All right, now create table users, then inside that we'll have the following. Now create table users, then the first column is going to be ID. What is ID? ID will be a field that we are going to use to identify every record in the database. So it's an integer type, that is number type. It's a primary key, that means it's going to be a unique and it will have duplicates, and then it should automatically be generated and automatically incrementing it. So database is the one that will be handling this, is not our business. Now the first one will be first name. It's going to be a text type. The second one is last name. It's going to be a text. The third one will be username. It's going to be a text as well. Then password, we leave it as text for now, so we don't need this. So now the date, okay, we want to keep record of date of individual, so that the day that the person this one is also going to be text. The day that the person registers, database will keep that, so that is why we say date is a text. and it will have a default value of current timestamp. So which means it will automatically get the current timestamp and use it for that field. So two fields are none of our concern now, the ID and the date. So here we are going to be concerned about 4, which is first name, last name, username, and password. So with this function will create the database, and afterwards it will create the table inside the database automatically. So we've just created this as a variable. We need to execute that. So we'll come here and say con, our variable that we use to connect with the database, say con dot execute our SQL. It will execute our SQL, and that is what will happen inside this function. That's exactly what I have here. Okay. Alright, so now let us continue. So we have done this, we execute the SQL. So now this function must fire immediately we run our application. So here where we have this, so we want to add everything that is our code, newly created things, we put it here. So what I'm going to do is I will say self dot create db, call this function immediately you load. So if we want to see this now, so it will create the database automatically and create this table inside it automatically. So because we fire the function immediately, the page loads. Alright, let's check. Now inside my folder I've removed the database. Let's rerun now to see what will happen. Let me save this and then come here. The reason why I'm doing it inside this is for me to be able to debug. I can run it directly on the application. It's just that if we don't have any, you can see name is not defined. That means I have not imported it. This is one of the things. Okay, so now let's go to the top of the page. We need to import SQLite3 just as we did on our register page. Say import SQLite3. Save now. So let me run it again to see. Okay, that's it. Now let's check our folder. What happens? We have our login DB. Alright, so the database has been created now. Now let's continue with our register. So on our register, we go there now to continue with that. Here on our register, yes, we'll still connect to the database as we did. That one is a must for us. We connect, then after connection, then we can now continue with saving of the record. So we have first name, last name, username, password. Yes, so here what we need to do is that we have password, we have confirm password. So what I am going to do here is that I will check if password and confirm password are the same, they are equal, then that is when we are going to save the record. Otherwise, we tell the user that he needs to make sure that the password and confirm password are the same. So how do we do that? We'll come here and say if password equal to confirm pass, then that is when we want to login. So if password and confirm passwords are equal, then we continue with the registration. So what do we do here? I will say SQL is equal to, how do we insert record? Type that in capital letter. Insert into our table, which is what? Users. Then what are the columns we are inserting for? So those columns, they are the ones here. So what I will do first after this is that I will come right here and put all these ones inside a tuple. So I'm going to say data is equal to, I'm going to open this, that's a tuple. So I put the first name, all these ones that we have here. We don't need confirm password in this case. Put that here. Okay. First name, last name, username, password. The same thing will now be here. That is, these are the columns we are inserting records for. Like I mentioned at our login, that we are going to insert only for these four: first name, last name, username, password. The ID and the date are going to be handled by database itself. We don't have any business with it. So, and that's what we have done here: first name, last name, username, password. Alright, so those are the columns we want to insert into. Now we now say values. What into bracket 2? What are the values we want to insert into this? So we won't just put all these values here directly because of SQL injection. We are just going to create a place that say question mark. How many are we putting there? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Represent each one. This will be for the first name, last name, username, and password. Those are the things we are going to put here. So those values are already inside our data. So now here I will now come right here and say we've not connected to database here. So I think that's the first thing we need to do. I will come right here and say, after getting all these ones, we're supposed to connect to the database. So I will say con is equal to, or maybe I should just copy from there. Let me copy from here so that I won't have to repeating myself. Okay. So con is equal to this SQLite 3 connect login DB. Alright, so we have been able to connect. So we have this SQL now. So the next thing is to execute the SQL. So we'll come here and say con.execute. So what are we executing? We are executing our SQL against the data. That is, this question mark will now pick what is in that data. So that is how we execute our SQL against data. Now after doing this, we now need to do what? Commit con.commit to commit our record. Okay, so now let's try and see. So if this goes successfully, then we should do something here for now. Let us just print data. Let me just say registered successfully. That's it. Else, let's go there. Else, then print not registered successfully. Okay, so now let's try it. I'm going to save this. I'm also going to save this. Now let's see if we are going to have it. If I go ahead and run this, let me run it right here so that we can see if there's any error. So let me call up the register and register. I'm going to say John. Jquery, username Jquery, password, confirm password, click on this. Yeah, you can see we have error. It says SQL3 connect login DB name SQL3 is not defined. Then why is it not defined? Why is it not defined? That means we've not imported that. Okay, that means I must have done it somewhere else. Import SQL3, save. So now if I go back and do it, okay, John Jquery, surname Jquery, password, click on register. Table user has no column named first name. Now let's see why are we getting this error. Our first name is not correct here. You can see that. So that is why we have that error. So how can we fix this kind of error? The best thing is to first of all drop the table. So what I'm going to do here is that I will run this, say con.execute Are we executing? Drop table users. Drop table users. So this will drop it and recreate it. So immediately we run this at first. We need to remove this the next time we want to run the application so that it won't go and keep dropping our table and recreating it. If we do that, our users will not be stored. Alright, so now let me go on to the login. PY. Okay, like this, the table should have been dropped. So I will drop that now. Go back there and remove that. Let me comment it. In case we have any error, we need to come back here. We don't know what we have done wrong in others. So now let me call the register again and register to see where my another error is. So that is the reason why I'm running it at the command line, so that we can see what error we are having. Okay, so now it hasn't dropped the table. Why? Oh yes, now it should have done that, because immediately we call this one, we drop table users, and then this will recreate it. Do we now need to do a commit here? But this is a DDL statement which we don't need commit. Let's see. So now let me run it here, or maybe I should even just delete the DB right here if we don't want any, but I'm just doing it programmatically. So rather than commenting the drop the other time, I commented the login. Okay, so now let me run this. Let's check. It has recreated our database now. Okay, so let's now try to run the register. Think okay. Okay, so John, Jquery, pass. Okay. Okay, now so we have corrected the first name, and then have let's run now and recreate the table, drop and recreate it. So I will run it again. Okay, so this should have recreate our DB now. Then we can now go ahead and run the register. Let's see now. John, Jquery, password, register. We registered successfully. That is how we create a registration page. Now let us now log in. Since we have a user now, we can now look at login. So how do we go about that? For our login page, we come here and create a function. So I'm going to create it anywhere, but let me start from the beginning so that it keeps going. So where is my button to log in? It is called self.btn login. So we do the same thing that we have done right here. Say self.btn login. When it is clicked, then it should connect to a function that we're going to create now. That function will be called self dot log in. Sure, we don't have anything like self.login. So then let's create the function dev login self. Now what will happen inside here? We are going to get whatever they enter into username, that is a line edit. Our username is a line edit. Our password is also a line edit. So check whatever text they put inside that. So I'm going to come here and say user is equal to self.username.text, then password. We cannot use pass here because pass is a keyword. I'm going to shorten that as well. So self.password dot text. We get the two texts, and then we go on into our database and check if those two exist in the database. So here I'm going to create a tuple of this data equal to user comma password, then our SQL that we go and select the query is equal to, we'll select the two, we'll say select all. Star means all in database language SQL from users, where username equal to question mark and password equal to question mark. So that means the username, we pick the first item in our tuple, and then the password, we pick the second item in the tuple. So the next thing for us is to execute, where we should have made this a global variable that we just call at once anywhere we need it. If we want to do that, we can actually do that rather than connecting every time we need to connect to database. So how do we do that? We can just come here and say cut this out of this place. Let me see. Just cut this out of this place. Maybe here I can say no, it will be inside the class generally before anything. So it will also be a member of the class. So this will be self.con self.com. So now if we do this, then right here we are supposed to use, it won't be just con, it will be self.con self.con. Okay, where other place do we use it? No, nowhere here. Okay, so now here that we want to log in, we will say self.con dot execute our SQL against data. But we won't just do this. We are selecting some things, items inside here. So therefore we have to store this. This will return record. We saw it inside a variable that we're going to call user data is equal to this, the self.execute SQL with data. Now we're going to check here that if the record, that is the user data, so we'll say if length is to get the length of an item. So if the length of user data dot fetch all, that is get all the records inside it, if it is greater than 0, that is when we found the record. If it is greater than 0, then we do what? Let's say print, let's test that as first, say user found. At least let's test it like this at first. So now if I should save this and run it, let me check it through this place, say login.py. okay, we get an error. See self.con, this is a self is not defined. Why? Isn't it inside our class? Okay, if it's not allowing us here, then let's move it out of this place and create it as inside the setup UI. We can put it here. I want us to use a global variable, not just. Okay, so now let's go there and check again. Yes, now because it won't. Okay, all right, without wasting our time, let's just use this inside individual. Even we can leave it as self dot as it is. Come here and okay, you can say self.con here too. The connection, I've removed that here, self.con. okay, so I don't think we should have error now. Okay, so this is our login. If we come here, if we have done, if it found record, print if it found record. What happens if it doesn't found? Say print no user found. Okay, now let's go back and check. So now, what's our username? Jquery, and password is password. We log in, we get user found. So we've been able to log in successfully. So now the next thing we need to do is, when we log in, we design 3 forms, 3 windows here: login, register, and welcome page. So now if you log in successfully, we want to display our welcome page. So to do that, we need to implement that on our login page. And what are we going to do? we will come right here. We can leave it. After printing this, let us open our welcome page and see how the class is being instantiated. So if we open this, you go to the bottom down right here. So we can just make use of the method we used yesterday by copying it, these 4 lines, where we create the object of Qt main window as main window. The UI, we call the class is main UI for this one. We've not changed it. And then we call the setup UI function inside it and show it. So these 4 lines, we can just copy it and put it right there in our login. So when we log in successfully, we do this. Or if we like, we can just put this inside a what is it called? See, okay. We can put it inside a function and call the function directly here. Alright, so now, but we need to do something. When this happens, we are going to hide login and show welcome. So now I'll go back there and say, oh, I didn't copy the class. Let me come and copy it here. See. Okay, here I will say form is equal to this, or even without that, we don't need to do that, create another object of it. The object is already created here. This is the login. Oh, we are using main window, which is going to look somehow in this regard for our login. Let's see, we need to change that. So we call it UI login. So, oh, it is that object that we didn't change. We didn't change the object here, main window. So let me give it login window, login window, login window. Okay, so let's see if we are going to get it. Okay, it's working. So now in this case, we hide login window after login. So we'll come here now and see login window dot hide function. So let's see what happens after logging in. We hide the login window and show the welcome window. So now if I should come here, let's see, let's do it through this place so that we can see how it is happening. If there's any issue, we know then Jquery and password. Okay, so he says UI main window is not defined. Yes, I know reason why. Ask me. Here we're supposed to use a save dot main window, and then we've not imported that welcome page. So this one, let's make it save dot main window dot show. Okay, so now we need to import that into this login. we'll come here and say from welcome. Let me see that. From welcome, import UI main window. The module is welcome. So from welcome, import UI main window. Okay, so this should resolve the issue. Let's check that. Say login, username Jquery, password, and that is that. Thank you very much. Everything is working fine now. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.